All right, a key concern for economists these days is just how far the credit crisis might spread and what effect that would have on the overall economy. Back with us for his exclusive Squawk interview, Joseph Stiglitz, who is a 2001 Nobel Prize-winning economist. He's also a professor at Columbia University. And we're joined by the other professor today, our very own Steve Leisman, our senior economics reporter.
Not worthy of the title, but thank you, Becky.
Well, let's turn...
In the face of Joe.
Yeah, in the face of Professor Stiglitz. Professor Stiglitz, we've been talking about the credit crisis. There are a lot of people trying to speculate which inning we're in, how much further this is going to go. What's your guess?
My guess is, you know, there's been debate about whether it's a V shape or U shape. I think there's growing consensus it's an L shaped. But of course, you know, L is going to come back up. I mean, every downturn eventually, but it's going to be prolonged.
But does that mean we're through the worst of it?
No. No. I mean, it's so clear. First of all, we haven't really had the effect of the contraction of state and local government. We really haven't, you know, the housing prices, the general estimate is that they've only gone about halfway through the downturn. And as you get more mortgages get underwater and the likelihood of foreclosure goes up, as we've seen, you've gone from the subprime to the Alt-A to, you know, and Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are being affected now. So in my mind, we're not even halfway through the problem.
Professor, I'm working on a theory here, and it has to do with this big argument we have running here with Joe and Rick Santelli about the market's ability to price in the future. The efficient market theory is the market immediately, correctly, incorporates all information. I just wonder, when it comes to this credit crunch, if not all information is created equal, that its ability to process future losses from a credit crunch is a different order of magnitude of information from its ability to process, for example, an earnings downgrade because of a product problem or something like that. Does that make sense?
Right. Yes, and there are a couple of reasons for that. One of them is these are systemic issues. You can look at one firm, you can figure out that.
Right.
But this is the interaction of our whole complex economy. And in fact, it's a whole complex global economy. And most analysts are not trained to think in this global systemic point of view.
I've been absolutely amazed at how the market seems to ignore what's happening in the stock market, in the credit markets, catch up, ignore, catch up. It seems a perpetual thing. One thing historically that I've been interested in, it seems like this crunch or this credit event has lasted a lot longer than some of the other ones we've had historically. Has it surprised you, the length of it?
No. And the reason is the buildup was much longer. You know, I began worrying about the fact that we had an unsustainable expansion, that we were growing on the basis of a housing bubble several years ago. And it was a little bit frustrating, personally, because I kept predicting this can't go on, and it kept going on. But the fact was that the longer it went on, the bigger the bubble and the deeper the downturn. The other reason that I think that the markets have been systematically wrong is wishful thinking. You know, if you've been selling, you know, that we know how to manage risk, we know what is really going on, you're not going to say, boy, did we get this wrong. You're going to try to, well, we made a little bit of a mistake. And so there is really a built-in bias towards excess optimism.
And yet, when we see the credit numbers from yesterday, and we look at the borrowing that's out there, can we say at this point that the credit crunch on Wall Street has really been felt yet on Main Street? And or is there still a possibility that Main Street avoids the worst ravages of this?
I think it's going to be very hard for Main Street to avoid the worst ravages. Historically, consumption is related to housing. When housing prices go down, much more than stock prices. And the fact of the matter is, and this is really the important point to realize, that from 2003 to mid-2007, we had a consumption binge that was fed by housing prices going up. Savings went down to 0.4%, zero, some quarters probably negative, depending on how you measure it. That's not sustainable. And the point is that now, if we go back just to, say, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6% savings, still low by international
standards. It's a huge hit to consumption.
It's a huge hit to consumption. And since we are a consumption-based economy, you bring consumption down that much, it's hard to figure out how GDP won't fall.
Yeah, but haven't you been surprised? I mean, the bulls have said, wait a second, where's your recession, Nobel Prize winner Joe Stiglitz? It's not here yet.
Well, we've not been creating any jobs for more than 6 months.
Okay. But we've not been falling off the cliff in the 300,000 range the way we have in prior recessions.
No, we've not been falling off, but we haven't created jobs, and that's a real sign of a weakness of the economy. Incomes have not been keeping up. What has kept the American economy going is exports. You know, the last quarter, net exports accounted for more than 100% of what growth we saw. If we hadn't had that boost, we would have been in negative territory. So the question is, can we continue to expand exports at that pace? And I'm very pessimistic for 2 reasons. One, what sustained the exports was our competitive devaluation, weak dollar. And secondly, Europe is now beginning to weaken.
So do you see this as a global recession?
I wouldn't use the word recession. What I would, I would just say a significant global slowdown. Right. The good news is a global economy. China still seems to be going strong. India going strong. They will probably grow more slowly, but you know, when you're growing at 12%, you're growing at 9%. That's still strong growth. But the important thing to recognize is U.S. consumption overwhelms that everything, and if that gets weaker, it's hard to have a robust global economy.
Joe, you don't mind this. This is like me being a local boxer and George Foreman comes to town, and I get to sit in the ring for a little while with him.
I did it, and I do you feel?
That's what
you didn't hear what I said.
No, I missed. I was prepared.
What I said before was, you know, when we were having this discussion, I said, you know, I'm just glad that when I ask you a question, you just don't look at me and go, that is the stupidest thing I've ever. You know, if I can sort of just hang.
I'm having fun trying to go a couple rounds with the guy here.
You know, and you know, he actually nods. I'm thinking.
Yeah, great.
Doing okay.
So I better quit while I'm ahead here, right? Go ahead, Joe. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm fooling everybody.